Hello everyone. So this is Harsh here. Today we are going to talk about something very interesting and very close to my understanding, which is about I think on social media there's a lot of debate on housing, that whether should we rent a house or should we buy a house, and a lot of people have given a lot opinion about these topics. They've made spreadsheets, they've made videos, how one should not actually buy a house, they should rent a house. And there are also views on the opposite side, how one should probably buy a house and not rent one. And all this has really amazed me, because all of these people are actually looking at the wrong thing, because I think people misunderstand what buying a house is. It's not the same thing as buying a stock or a fixed deposit. It's a very emotional and a consumption oriented investment. So the thing we truly are looking at, the people who are actually buying houses, is not returns. It's actually risk. So for example, just to bring my point further, is that when you're say 35 or 40 years old and you probably want to buy a house and give installment, means you're at a place in your life when you're more settled. You're ready to commit yourself for the next 40, 50 years. And the price and the value, that does not matter as much. A house protects you from also other things like hyperinflation. Suppose there's a lot of inflation, there's war, and things go up in price a lot. The correlation between housing and inflation is quite high. So it protects you from this tail risk scenarios as well. On the other hand, someone like a 19 or 20 or 25-year-old who wants to venture out in this world, who wants to do new things, who wants to experiment, who wants to do business, who wants to be an entrepreneur, would definitely want the loan, the burden of a housing loan on his head. So in some sense, housing is for more of the risk averse buying a house, and not buying and being more aggressive is for the risk taker to an extent. So the true determinant and the true differentiator is not really return, it's risk. Return is very obvious. Okay, a house gives you 2 to 3% yield and 5-6% inflation. Our GDP is growing at 8-8%. So roughly, with minusing all costs and whatnot, the returns are in line. Now one can make several arguments on both sides, but the real alpha in thought is the risk determinant, it's the behavioral aspect. And I think one should not underestimate two opposing factors about housing. Number one, it really helps us protect against long bouts of inflation. Imagine what the price levels are today. We factor in interest rates and whatnot, but we don't factor in risk scenarios of very high inflation. In that scenario, a housing loan or buying a house would really help us protect against fighting off that inflation in terms of our wealth effect. On the other hand, suppose for example, I am a homeowner. I own my own house, and I feel that a little bit of a burden also sometimes, that if I want to make a decision to move countries, to maybe start a business, to take a lot of financial risk, so having a house sort of adds, it's not really an asset, it maybe acts as a liability of some sort that I have to service or take care of this aspect. So there are these two sides to it, and I think between these behavioral aspects, this component, the return aspects of a couple of percentage points here and there, looks very paltry. It does not look very important in that regard. So I feel if you really talk to people out there who are buying houses, who are thinking about their lives, these factors of qualitative factors take much more precedence over quantitative factors like half or 1% here and there. And just one more fact, that I myself studied real estate finance, so I can make the long spreadsheet. I know how the numbers work very well, but I also understand how people behave in the real estate market. And the true buyer with children or the true entrepreneur is not really thinking just numbers, They're thinking about their lives, because housing is not the same as buying a stock or an investment, as I mentioned. It is intricately woven into our lives. So I think that's a point worth considering, worth thinking about when we think about this buy versus rent debate. In my mind, it's pretty useless, and we should be thinking about what are the drivers that drive people to make decisions in the housing market. And I think that would be a more fruitful sort of a debate to think about. Thanking you and signing off.